Welcome to the first ever commentated tourney coverage on the channel. Today we are showcasing the Summer at Sunnymede powered by Disc Golf 978. This is a Pro-Am B-Tier event that was held on July 9th in Middleborough, Massachusetts. This tourney was directed by Capaccioli, hosting 69 players with a purse of nearly $2,000. Sunnymede's blue-to-blue layout was played during this round, which is a very challenging course that tests both the distance and accuracy of players. There is a great mix of open field shots and tight wooded tunnel shots that all play while trying to avoid the OB. Before we get into the round, I want to introduce our four players. First off, we have Capaccioli, who is a local to Sunnymede, living in Halifax, Massachusetts, and has been a member since 2019. During the 2022 season, he has played 29 events, logging 8 wins, 19 top 3 finishes, and made over $7,000. Today he will be representing his sponsors Discmania Discs, Beast Disc Golf, and Niche Bags. Next up we have Chace from East Greenwich, Rhode Island. During his 2022 season he has played 16 events where he's logged 5 wins, 8 top 3 finishes, and made over $4,000. Harry plays for Team 2 Buff and Team Challenge and is also on Team Discmania with Dylan. We also have Joey Antosca, who is local to Burgess Park out on the Cape, plays for Team Burgess and Team Challenge, and has had a great 2022 season so far. He throws mainly Innova and Discmania, but also throws harps for approach shots. This year, Joey won the Vineyard Social, where he made over $500 at the event. Lastly, we have Maloney, who has played 8 events this year and has won 2 of them with 3 top 3 finishes. He is also local to Burgess Park and plays on Team Burgess with Joey for Team Challenge. Danny mainly bags Innova, as you'll see today, where he throws birdies, rhinos, T-birds, leopards, destroyers, and thunderbirds all over the course. He is representing his sponsor, Bishop Discs. Here we are on hole 1, a 525-foot par 4, where there's OB along the whole left side of the fairway, riding up until the stone wall about 450 feet from the tee. On this day there was a steady right to left wind, which made the tee shots fairly difficult to keep moving right. In the first round, this hole averaged 3.75, 0.25 strokes under par, so it is definitely one you want to get. Typically you'll see players either throwing a big pushing hyzer forehand like Dylan did, or a big turnover that holds right, as you see Harry just did. Harry just threw his C-line FD on a big backhand turnover that held pretty well and landed just short of the wall. Here we have Joey throwing a combination of the first 2 shots as he backhands a DD3, which just doesn't quite turn as much as he wanted and fades out of bounds just at the end of its flight. But thankfully he was far enough up the fairway that he can still save his par with a solid up and down. Danny just threw his Star Destroyer on a backhand drive that found the OB unfortunately, but here he is trying to save his par. That right there was his DX birdie on a nice little backhand turnover that puts himself right in the circle. Joey here is throwing his AVR 3 on a backhand and also puts it right in the circle right next to the basket. Here we have Dylan forehanding something that looks like a tactic. Goes a little long, but still has a chance to save birdie. Harry here is about 80 feet away, just throwing a little touch tactic shot right under the pin. Showing me his FD right there. Here's Dylan putting for birdie. Might have had a little bit of first hole jitters right there. He is up 6, so that's okay. Taps in his par. Yep, Joey making his par right there. Saves it after going OB. Danny also saving his par. And then here is Harry for birdie. Okay, so Harry was the only birdie on that hole. The other 3 parred. Hole 2 is a 260-foot par 3 that averaged 2.5 in the first round, a whole half stroke under par, and played as the easiest hole of the day. Harry here is throwing his P2. Unfortunately, hits that one tree in the middle and kicks left to circle's edge. Dylan's throwing his FD3 on a mini forehand flex that skips up, hits the wall, and he's about 22 to 25 feet long. Here's Joey throwing his harp. Just fades right before the basket. Might have hit the wall and rolled in to about 25 feet short of the basket. Danny's throwing a beat up Rhino, I think. Puts it right under the pin. Great shot by Danny. So Harry's just outside the circle, just a little short. Easy par. Again, Dylan just leaves it a little low. Yep. Dylan tapping in his par. Harry tapping in his par. And then that's Danny for his birdie. Good putt, Danny. Next up, we have hole 3, which is a tough 415-foot par 3, where you can go either a big forehand or a big backhand turnover that's just not really pushing straight, but kind of just going right, like Danny does here. Unfortunately, puts a little bit too much anhyzer on it, and it rolls into the woods. That was his leopard. Harry's putting this on a great anhyzer angle with his C-line FD that pushes just past the green basket and gives himself a lick for 2 on this hole. Dylan's throwing his call breaker 1 right there. Unfortunately, gets caught up in the tree. It still has a chance to save his par right here. He's throwing his tactic, puts it to about 25 feet short. Here's Joey throwing his Rhino, parking it for par. And then Danny was looking at this roller angle for a little bit with his Rhino, but throws it perfectly to about 15 feet.
What does it mean then?
Pretty easy par right there. And then this is Harry's look for birdie from circle 2. Just leaving it a little bit low and left. Connecting on a little bit of metal right there. I don't think there was a single birdie on this hole all day. But here we have 3 pretty easy pars that they're cleaning up. This hole averaged over a half stroke above par at 3.56 in the first round, so them all taking 3s is pretty solid.
Huh, I never even noticed it. I never even noticed that. That angle would be so intense. Yeah, you had movement out there.
Hole 4 is a 520-foot par 4 that again averaged about a half stroke over par at a 4.44 in the first round. This hole has OB all on the left side where those stakes are, and then the right side, if you push through everything and over the rock wall, you will find OB. The rock wall that Danny's traveling over right now is about 410 feet from the tee pad, and he probably threw that about 440 or 430 feet, and leaving himself an easy look for birdie. And that was Danny's T-bird. This is Harry throwing his C-line PD flat, and it's penetrating forward and just goes past the wall, leaving himself a chance for birdie from about 120 feet. Here's Dylan ripping on his Cloudbreaker 1, flipping up a little bit, but never really turning, and makes it right over the wall. It's going to be a pretty easy look for birdie from there. This is Joey throwing his Firebird, trying to skip it up there. Fortunately, just caught the rock wall, leaving it a little left of where he wanted. Harry's just throwing a little approach shot right under the basket. This is Danny throwing a rhino or a birdie. I think it's a rhino. Unfortunately, hits a late tree and leaves himself about a circle's edge putt for birdie. This is Joey throwing his rhino again. Just putting it right up there for a solid chance to save par. Dylan was doing a little jump putt from there. Just going to be tapping in his birdie. So here's Danny trying to save his birdie. Fortunately, keeps it a little left and high, and it rolls under that fence, which is going to be a little weird of a putt right here. But he cans it and saves his par. That was a great putt. So Joey still has a little bit left for his par. Fortunately, it's a little right. Drops out, so he'll be tapping in a bogey on this hole. Here's Dylan for birdie. Yep. And Harry tapping in his birdie. Yep. Next up, we have hole 5, which is a 510-foot par 3 that plays really uphill with OB all over it. This will average 3.25 in the first round, 0.25 strokes above par. And the OB on this hole, there's an OB fence on the right that's pretty easy to find if you turn over a drive, which Dylan unfortunately finds here with his FD, and there's OB left really far up the fairway that Harry ended up finding that he didn't know about, and he was just a few feet out of bounds. Here we have Danny ripping on his Destroyer that he finds dead center of the fairway. Joey also swung this out a little right with his DD3, but it manages to find a great spot in the fairway, just like Danny did. So I missed Dylan's shot from the drop zone, but he put it pretty close. Danny's throwing what I assume to be a rhino right under the basket. Here's Joey throwing a harp.
I just want to play it the way everyone else is going to play.
Just a little long, but nothing you can't handle. Here's Harry throwing what I assume to be a P2. And now they're tapping in their putts. But this looks like about a 30-footer. Maybe 25. That Joey just knocks down dead center. Hole 6, a 467-foot par 3. It's the first of 3 tweener holes that could be par 3s or par 4s. This hole averaged 3.88 in the first round, so almost a whole stroke over par. And most players are throwing a pushing forehand hyzer and just praying that it doesn't hit anything. But as you saw, Danny went with the turnover with his leopard again, just like he did on hole 3. And unfortunately, it hit something early. Joey snuck through with his destroyer. Harry's throwing a PD2 right here. It's about in the same spot as Danny did. And then Dylan's ripping his Cloudbreaker 1 that he threw on holes 3 and 4. And from what I remember, it got through a little bit. Yep, Dylan parked it. And here's Joey's look for 2. Just leaves it a little low. I doubt he was really running that, because a 3 is pretty solid on this hole, so. So here's Harry to save his 3 from about 70. Yeah, dead center, steps it right in there. That was an amazing 3 save by Harry. And I don't think the camera really does it justice, but it is a death putt. If he missed the basket, that probably would have rolled
Glad he did.
outside the circle. There's Dylan tapping in his 3. Joey's going to tap in his 3 as well. And just holds his balance, keeps composure, walks it in. So hole 7 is a very uphill 330-foot par 3 that averaged just around par in the first round at a 3.06. From the 2 rounds I watched, it seemed about half the people threw forehand flexes, half the people threw pushing hyzer backhands like Harry and Danny are going to go for.
Heads up, Dad.
This is Harry's C-line PD that he threw on hole 4 as well. And he got himself a circle putt for birdie right there. Dylan's ripping on his FD2 that he likes to hyzer flip and allows it to naturally turn, but unfortunately it hit something. This is Danny throwing his destroyer, but I think it hit something late as well. All the players are just throwing their little approach shots. Here's Dylan to save par. And he cans it. That was a great par save by Dylan right there. Great putt, Dylan. Here we have Joey trying to save his par after hitting that tree on the left. Joey's putting with his KC Pro AVRs. And here's Harry for 2. He had a little straddle around the tree, but finds the right side chains and drops right in for the birdie. There's Danny tapping in his par. And there's his bogey for Joey. Alright, hole 8, a 529-foot par 4. That averaged 4.69 in the first round. And this hole requires a very demanding tee shot, where you want to be in a good spot to attack for birdie. If you hit early on this hole, it can make it very challenging to save par, and the strokes can definitely add up quick. From what I learned, it seems like the right side of the fairway is much more forgiving. So flexing a forehand like Dylan does there leaves himself pretty favorable upshot rather than the left side. Here we have Danny throwing a T-bird. Just trying to throw it straight for as far as he can. It kissed something. It almost hit the course owner Rich right there. But if it didn't hit that tree, it could have went straight another 50, 60 feet, I bet. Here we have Joey forehanding a Firebird, trying to do the same thing that Dylan did. And he pures it right down the middle. Great shot by Joey.
That was impressive. I like it.
This was a very impressive shot.
Great shot. Well
I think he was throwing a rhino right there. Heiser flipped it, got the flat, and it just held that turn perfectly through the trees. Here's Danny also throwing a rhino, I think. So Joey and Danny both pretty close for their birdies on this hole. And a hole that averaged 4.69, taking a 3 for both of them on this hole is great. Ooh, Harry just missed that a little bit low from about 50. Here's Dylan from about 40, running it just a little low as well, but it sits. So this is Danny for birdie. Dead center. And yep, Joey just had a little tap in. The other guys are cleaning up their putts. So now we're gonna head into hole 9 after Dylan taps this out. The last hole of the front 9 coverage. This is a 348-foot par 3 that does have a tricky Mando to deal with on the left side of the fairway. But Danny doesn't even want to try going that way, so he just backhands his Thunderbird on the right, trying to set himself up for an easy par.
Yep, you're good.
This hole averaged also about a half stroke over par in the first round at a 3.44. There's Joey forehanding his Sexton Firebird. Unfortunately, it hits early and kicks to the right, leaving a tough upshot from over there. Dylan throwing his FD2. Nice little Heiser flip, allowing it to turn a little bit. And he's giving himself a lick for 2 from there. Probably about 40 to 50 feet. And Harry put a move on this one, but unfortunately hits a late tree with his BD2.
Yeah.
Still has a manageable upshot for par. So this was a really tricky lie for Joey. He's throwing his Firebird again and hits a tree in front of him.
Oh, brutal.
Unfortunately, kicks out of bounds. So now he's shooting 4 with his AVR 3 from here. This was a great shot, right under the basket. Securing a 5. Looks like Danny's throwing his birdie right here. Puts it right under the basket. Easy par. Here's Harry for 2. Just a little short, but easy par. And there's Dylan from 40.
Yeah,
Dead center. I'm sure Dylan was one of the only 2s on this hole. If not, the only 2. And here they are, all cleaning up. So, hope you guys enjoyed this front 9 coverage. I'm looking forward to commentating the back 9. And I hope to see you guys there. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you haven't yet. And thank you for watching. See you on the back 9, guys.